The alarm screamed through Sentinel Station Zathor like a wounded animal. Commander Velruth dropped his drink and rushed to the command center. His four eyes widened as he stared at the main display screen. Something was coming toward their station, and it was massive. "Report," Velruth barked at his crew. His purple skin turned darker, a sign of stress among his people. A young officer named Pixtel checked his instruments 3 times before speaking. His voice shook. "Commander, we have detected an unknown vessel approaching our territory. It's big. Really big. The energy readings don't make sense." Velruth moved closer to the screen. The numbers kept changing, climbing higher and higher. The power output from this single ship exceeded anything in the Crethean Empire's military database. "That should be impossible. What kind of ship produces that much energy?" Velruth asked. He tried to sound calm, but his voice betrayed him. "Unknown, sir," Pixtel replied. "The design doesn't match any known species. The hull composition is strange. Our scanners can't fully penetrate it." Senior Officer Krathman stepped forward. She was old, experienced, and rarely worried about anything, but now her face showed concern. "Commander, I recommend we alert High Command immediately. This could be a threat beyond our ability to handle." Velruth laughed. It was a harsh sound. "A single ship? Against our entire frontier fleet? You're getting soft in your old age, Krathman." He turned to the communications officer. "Hail them. Let's find out who's bold enough to enter Crethian space without permission." The communications officer worked his controls. Static filled the command center. Then a voice came through, clear and cold. It spoke in perfect galactic common, the language all spacefaring species used. "This is UESS Retribution. Withdraw from Sector 447 within 72 hours. This is your only warning." Silence fell over the command center. Every officer stared at the speaker. Velruth felt his blood turn cold. U.S. United Earth spaceship, but that was impossible. "Did they say Earth?" Pixtel whispered. Krathman's face went pale. "The humans. But they're extinct. Everyone knows this." Velruth forced himself to laugh again, though it sounded hollow even to his own ears. "Obviously not humans. Some scavenger must have found an old human ship and restored it. Or it's an AI that went rogue after the humans died. Either way, it's nothing to fear." He opened a channel back to the unknown vessel. "Unknown ship, this is Commander Velruth of the Crethian Empire. You have entered our territory illegally. You will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. If you resist, we will destroy you." The response came after a long pause. "Commander Velruth, my name is Captain Sarah Chen. I am human and I am very much alive. Sector 447 belonged to humanity 200 years ago. It was stolen from us through an act of genocide. We are taking it back. You have 72 hours to evacuate all Crethean military and civilian assets from this sector. After that, anyone remaining will be considered hostile." Velruth's crew erupted in nervous chatter. He silenced them with a gesture. "Captain Chen, if that's really who you are, you're either insane or stupid. Humanity is gone. Your world was destroyed. Your colonies were eliminated. You have no claim here anymore. We remember what you did, Commander. We remember all of it. The Crethean Empire, the Zelthari Collective, and the Vorn hegemony. You thought you erased us. You were wrong." Captain Chen's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. 72 hours. I strongly suggest you use them wisely." The channel closed. Velruth stared at the screen, his mind racing. The human extinction had happened 2 centuries ago. He had learned about it in military academy. 3 great empires, afraid of humanity's rapid expansion and technological growth, had united for the first and only time in history. They destroyed every human colony world they could find. Then they triggered Earth's sun to go supernova, wiping out the human homeworld and billions of lives in an instant. It had been brutal. It had been efficient. And it had been completely successful. "Or so everyone believed, Commander. What are your orders?" Krathman asked quietly. Velruth straightened his uniform. "Contact High Command. Send them all our sensor data on this vessel. And then," he paused, making his decision, "and then we wait. But also, send orders to Battle Group Theta. Have them move to intercept coordinates. If this ship hasn't left our space in 72 hours, we'll remove it ourselves." "Sir, shouldn't we consider the warning?" Pixtel asked nervously. "If humans really did survive somehow and they've had 200 years to prepare." 200 years to do what? Velruth snapped. "To hide in fear? To struggle for survival? They're a broken species if they exist at all. We are the Crethean Empire. We have 40 warships in this sector alone. Even if that ship is powerful, it's still just one ship against our entire fleet. Krathman didn't look convinced, but she nodded and began issuing orders. The command center buzzed with activity as messages flew to various ships and stations throughout the sector. Within hours, High Command responded. Admiral Kreshna herself appeared on the view screen. She was the supreme commander of the Krethian military, a legend who had won countless battles. Her face was stern. "Commander Velruth, I've reviewed your report. This is troubling. With respect, Admiral, I believe it's nothing we can't handle. One ship, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against our fleet." Admiral Kreshna's eyes narrowed. "I've been alive long enough to remember the humans, Commander. Before we destroyed them, they were the fastest evolving species in the galaxy. In just 500 years, they went from primitive planet dwellers to a spacefaring civilization that challenged empires millions of years old. They were unpredictable, creative, and frighteningly adaptable. But they're gone, Admiral. Maybe. Maybe not. I'm ordering additional battle groups to your location. You'll have 120 warships within 48 hours. If this Captain Chen is real, if humans really did survive, we need to be prepared for anything." Velruth felt slightly insulted. Did the Admiral think he couldn't handle this? But he kept his thoughts to himself. "Understood, Admiral." The screen went dark. Velruth turned back to his crew. "You heard the Admiral. We prepare for battle. But I want every sensor focused on that ship. I want to know everything about it. Its weapons, its shields, its weaknesses. When the 72 hours are up, we'll show whoever is on that vessel that the Krethian Empire doesn't back down from threats." As his crew worked, Velruth stared at the distant dot on the sensor screen that represented the human ship. Deep down, in a place he didn't want to acknowledge, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Fear. The countdown had begun, 72 hours until either the human ship retreated, or the galaxy learned whether humanity's extinction had been exaggerated. Velruth tried to feel confident. He tried to remember all his training, all his victories, all the reasons he was a decorated commander. But Captain Chen's words kept echoing in his mind. "We remember what you did." And suddenly Velruth wondered if the Krethian Empire had made a terrible mistake 200 years ago, not in trying to destroy humanity, but in failing to make absolutely certain they were all dead. 68 hours had passed since the warning. Commander Velruth sat in his command chair aboard the battleship Crimson Talon, watching the sensor displays with growing tension. Around him, 40 Krethian warships held formation in the deep darkness of space. They waited at the edge of Sector 447, guns ready, shields at maximum power. "Contact in 30 seconds, the tactical officer announced. Velruth gripped the arms of his chair. Despite all his bravado back at the station, despite his confident words to his crew, he felt uneasy. The reports from the other two empires hadn't helped. The Zelthari Collective and the Vorn Hegemony had also received warnings from human ships. Multiple ships, not just one. Humanity, it seemed, had indeed survived. And they weren't hiding anymore. Visual contact. Putting it on screen now. The main display flickered, and then Velruth saw it. His breath caught in his throat. Every officer on the bridge fell silent. The human warship hung in space like a predator from ancient nightmares. It was enormous, easily twice the size of the Crimson Talon. The hull was dark, almost black, with strange angles that seemed to drink in the light from nearby stars. Weapons bristled along its surface, though their design was unlike anything in the galactic databases. The ship looked sleek and deadly, built for one purpose only. War. By the ancestors, someone whispered. Velruth forced himself to speak. "All ships, battle formation. Weapons ready. But do not fire until I give the order." He opened a channel to the human vessel. "Unknown ship, this is Commander Velruth. Your 72 hours have expired. You are in violation of Krethian space. Power down your weapons and surrender, or we will open fire." The response came immediately. A human face appeared on the screen. Captain Sarah Chen looked exactly like the ancient records showed humans looking. Smooth skin, dark eyes, black hair tied back in a simple style. She wore a gray uniform with insignia Velruth didn't recognize. What struck him most was her expression. Calm. Completely calm. "Commander Velruth, I gave you fair warning. I told you to leave. You chose to stay." She paused. "Before we begin, I want you to know something. 200 years ago, the Crethean Empire, along with your allies, murdered 4 billion humans on the colony world New Horizon. This sector, this exact location. Then you destroyed Earth itself, killing another 12 billion people. Velruth said nothing. What could he say? It was all true. Captain Chen continued. Those 16 billion people had families. They had children. They had dreams. And your empires erased them because you were afraid of what humanity might become. Well, Commander, you're about to find out what we became. Captain, you're outnumbered 40-1. Be reasonable. Reasonable? For the first time, emotion crept into her voice. Was it reasonable to murder 16 billion innocents? Was it reasonable to destroy an entire star system? No, Commander. The time for reason ended 2 centuries ago. This is justice. She leaned forward slightly. Last chance. Withdraw now and you'll live to see tomorrow. Velruth felt anger rise in his chest. How dare this human, this survivor of a dead species, threaten the Crethean Empire? He made his decision. All ships, open fire! 40 warships unleashed hell. Plasma torpedoes streaked through space, leaving bright trails. Particle beams lanced out like spears of light. Mass drivers hurled projectiles at incredible speeds. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. Every shot hit the Retribution dead center. Explosions bloomed across its shields, creating cascading waves of energy. The darkness of space lit up like a supernova. Velruth allowed himself a small smile. No ship could withstand that much firepower. The light faded. The explosions cleared, and the Retribution hung in space, completely undamaged. Its shields hadn't even flickered. Not a single scratch marred its dark hull. Impossible, Velruth breathed. Captain Chen's face reappeared on the screen. She looked disappointed, like a teacher watching a student fail an easy test. You were warned. She glanced at someone off screen. Weapons free. Make it quick, the Retribution moved. It shouldn't have been able to move like that. Nothing that large should be so fast, so agile. It accelerated impossibly, closing the distance to the nearest Crethean ships in seconds. Then it opened fire. Velruth had never seen weapons like these. One ship exploded as something that looked like a tiny black hole appeared inside it, tearing it apart from within. Another ship simply disintegrated as millions of microscopic machines swarmed over it, taking it apart molecule by molecule. A third ship's shields failed as quantum energy phased right through them, and then the hull melted like wax. Evasive maneuvers, Velruth screamed. All ships scatter formation? But the Retribution anticipated every move. Its weapons tracked with perfect accuracy. 4 ships gone. 7 ships. 10 ships. The human vessel moved through the Crethean formation like a blade through cloth, and everywhere it went, ships died. The crew of the Crimson Talon panicked. Officers shouted. Alarms blared. Someone was praying to the old gods. Velruth tried to maintain order, tried to coordinate a defense, but it was useless. They weren't fighting a ship. They were fighting something far more advanced, far more deadly. Ramming speed, someone shouted over the comm system. It was Captain Drelvox of the warship Thunderstrike. His ship accelerated toward the Retribution, clearly planning to crash into it. If he couldn't destroy it with weapons, maybe sheer mass would work. The Retribution didn't even slow down. A single shot, a beam of energy that looked like concentrated starlight, cut the Thunderstrike in half. Both pieces tumbled away into space. Lifeless hulks. 15 ships destroyed. 18. 20. The battle had lasted less than 4 minutes, and half the Crethean fleet was gone. Velruth realized with cold certainty that they were all going to die. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. All ships retreat, he finally ordered. Pride didn't matter anymore. Honor didn't matter. Survival was all that remained. Full speed, scatter in all directions. The remaining Crethean ships turned and ran. The Retribution pursued briefly, destroying 3 more vessels that moved too slowly. Then it stopped. It just stopped hanging in space, as if the fleeing ships weren't even worth the ammunition. Velruth's ship, the Crimson Talon, had also turned to run. But a shot clipped their engines, not destroying them, but crippling them. The ship tumbled, emergency systems screaming. When the crew finally stabilized, they found themselves drifting, helpless. Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen again. Commander Velruth, I spared you deliberately. Do you know why? Velruth couldn't speak. His voice had abandoned him. Because I need you to deliver a message, Captain Chen said. Go back to your high command. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity has returned. Tell them we have 200 ships just like the Retribution, and they're all coming for our former territories. Tell them we remember every world they took from us, every life they destroyed. She paused. And tell them this, Commander. We're not interested in conquest. We're not interested in building an empire. We just want what was ours. But if they try to stop us, if they try to fight us, we will do to them exactly what they did to us 2 centuries ago. We will erase them. The screen went dark. The Retribution turned slowly, its massive hull reflecting the distant stars. Then it accelerated, vanishing into the darkness faster than sensors could track. Velruth sat in his damaged ship, surrounded by the debris field of 23 destroyed warships. Thousands of his fellow Krethians were dead, blown apart or frozen in the void. He had led them here. He had ordered them to fight, and they had been slaughtered in 4 minutes by a single human ship. Send a message to High Command, he said quietly. Tell them everything. Tell them the humans are back. And tell them, his voice broke. Tell them we may have awakened something that should have stayed asleep. As emergency repair crews worked to restore basic systems, Velruth stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Captain Chen and her ship were continuing their mission. Somewhere out there, more human warships were gathering. The galaxy had tried to kill humanity 200 years ago. Now humanity was back, harder and stronger and angrier than before, and Velruth knew with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. The first contact was over. The war hadn't even begun. The emergency council chamber on the Krithian homeworld had never been so crowded. Admiral Kreshna stood at the center, her face grave as she watched the holographic recording for the 3rd time. Around her, the highest military commanders of 3 separate empires watched in horrified silence. The recording showed everything. Commander Velruth's fleet being torn apart, ships exploding, disintegrating, melting, 4 minutes of systematic destruction by a single human warship. When it ended, nobody spoke for a long moment. Finally, Supreme Chancellor Vorntok of the Vorn hegemony broke the silence. He was a massive creature, nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick armor plating that had evolved over millions of years. His species were considered the greatest warriors in the galaxy. But now his voice shook. This cannot be real. One ship did this? One ship? It's real, Admiral Kreshna confirmed. We've verified the sensor data multiple times. Commander Velruth and his surviving crew have been debriefed. The recordings from multiple ships all show the same thing. She gestured at the frozen image of the Retribution. The humans survived, and they've become something we never anticipated. Matriarch Zaylara of the Zelthari Collective hissed softly. Her serpentine form coiled tighter, a sign of stress. We destroyed their worlds. We triggered their sun. How could any of them survive? Our intelligence agencies have been investigating, Kreshna replied. We believe a human deep space expedition was beyond the galactic rim when we attacked. They must have been far enough away to escape. 200 years isolated, with nothing but rage and determination to keep them going. 200 years, Vorntok repeated. What could they accomplish in 200 years? A Krethian intelligence officer stepped forward nervously. His name was Thexil, and he held a data tablet that trembled in his hands. We've gathered reports from across the galaxy. The Retribution isn't alone. We've confirmed sightings of at least 6 more human warships in different sectors, all moving toward former human territories, all issuing similar warnings. 7 ships, Matriarch Zaylara said. 7 ships against our combined fleets of thousands. Why are we even concerned? Thexil swallowed hard. Because our long-range sensors have detected something else. Deep space anomalies consistent with quantum slipstream drives. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. All converging toward the inner galaxy. He looked up, his eyes wide with fear. The 7 ships aren't an invasion force. They're scouts. The chamber erupted in chaos. Commanders shouted. Some called for immediate military action. Others demanded more information. Admiral Kreshna raised her hand and slowly silence returned. We face an unprecedented situation, she said. For the first time in galactic history, the Krethian Empire, the Zelthari Collective, and the Vorn hegemony must work together. Not as temporary allies, but as united forces against a common enemy. The humans were never this powerful before, Vorntok argued. They had decent ships, good weapons, but nothing like what we just witnessed. Where did this technology come from? Thexil consulted his tablet. Our xenoarchaeology departments have a theory. The galaxy is old, very old. Billions of years old. Many species have risen and fallen. Some left ruins, abandoned stations, ancient technology. What if the humans found something out there, beyond the rim, in the dark spaces between galaxies? What if they discovered the remnants of a civilization far older and more advanced than anything we've encountered? The implications settled over the room like a heavy blanket. If humans had found ancient technology and had 2 centuries to study it, to integrate it, to improve upon it, then the 7 ships they'd seen might be the least of their problems. What do they want? Matriarch Zalera asked. Did Captain Chen make demands? Yes, Admiral Kreshina said. They want Sector 447 and 46 other sectors that once contained human colonies. They want their territory back. They've given us 72 hours to evacuate our citizens and military forces from those sectors. And if we refuse? Kreshna played another recording. This one showed Captain Sarah Chen's face, calm and cold. Her words echoed through the chamber. If you try to stop us, if you try to fight us, we will do to you exactly what you did to us 2 centuries ago. We will erase you. Silence again. Every commander in the room understood what that meant. Total extinction. Not just military defeat, but the complete destruction of their species. We must fight, Vorntok declared. We cannot show weakness. If we give them 47 sectors, what's to stop them from demanding more? We must mobilize our full military might and crush them before they grow stronger. Many heads nodded in agreement. The warrior mentality ran deep in all 3 empires. They had ruled the galaxy for so long, dominated so many smaller species. The idea of retreating, of giving up territory without a fight, was almost unthinkable. Admiral Kreshina understood this. She had felt the same way at first, but she had also reviewed every piece of data they had on the human ship. She had seen what 4 minutes of combat had done to 40 warships, and she had lived long enough to recognize a losing battle when she saw one. If we fight, she said quietly, we need to be prepared for losses, massive losses. We need to mobilize everything, every ship, every weapon, every soldier. Then that's what we'll do, Vorntok said. I propose we assemble the largest armada in galactic history. 2,000 warships, maybe more. We'll meet them at Sector 447. We'll show these surviving humans that we are still the dominant powers in this galaxy. The vote was unanimous. Messages went out across 3 empires. Fleets began moving from their home systems. Weapons were prepared. Soldiers were briefed. The galaxy was going to war. While the empires prepared, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching her tactical displays. Her first officer, Marcus Torres, stood beside her. He was younger than Chen, with scars across his face from an accident years ago, but his eyes were sharp, intelligent, focused. They're mobilizing, Torres reported. Looks like they're gathering at least 2,000 ships. Maybe more, Chen nodded slowly. Expected? They're warriors. They can't back down even when they should. Will we have enough ships? The other scout vessels are reporting in. We'll have 27 warships by the time the battle begins. Should be sufficient. Torres raised an eyebrow. 27 against 2,000? Captain, I know our ships are advanced, but those are still long odds. Chen smiled slightly. It wasn't a warm smile. Marcus, what's the first rule of warfare? Never underestimate your enemy. And the second rule? Torres thought for a moment. Make sure your enemy underestimates you. Exactly. They still think we're the same humans they destroyed 2 centuries ago. Weak, desperate, easy to kill. They don't understand what we've become. She turned to face him fully. We're not just fighting with better weapons or stronger shields. We've evolved, Marcus. Every person on the ship, on every human ship, we're connected to our vessels through neural interfaces. We think together, move together, fight together. Our AI systems aren't just computers. They're partners, extensions of our minds. When those alien fleets see 27 ships, they think they see 27 separate targets. They're wrong. They'll be fighting a single organism with 27 bodies. Torres nodded. He had experienced it himself. The strange sensation of being linked to the ship's systems. He could feel the retribution like an extension of his own body. He could sense the other ships in their small fleet, their positions, their status, as clearly as he could feel his own heartbeat. The other scout captains have reported similar responses in their sectors, Chen continued. The aliens are evacuating some civilian populations, but they're refusing to withdraw militarily. They're digging in, preparing for a fight. She looked at the tactical display showing the location of New Horizon, the dead colony world where billions of humans had died. Good, let them come. Let them bring their fleets. It's time they learned the price of genocide. Back in the council chamber, Admiral Kreshina watched as fleet positions updated on the central hologram. Ships were converging from across 3 empires, the largest military gathering ever assembled. It should have made her feel confident. It should have made her feel secure. Instead, she felt a cold dread in her stomach. She remembered Captain Chen's calm face, her steady voice, her absolute confidence. She remembered how easily the Retribution had destroyed 40 warships, and she remembered something from the old records from before the human extinction. Humans had a saying. She had read it once in a historical document. Beware the fury of a patient man. Humanity had been patient for 200 years. And now their fury was coming. Kreshna looked at her fellow commanders, all busy with preparations, all confident in their numbers and their strength. She wanted to share their confidence. She wanted to believe that 2,000 ships would be enough. But deep down, in a place she didn't want to acknowledge, she suspected they were all marching toward their doom. The space around the dead world of New Horizon filled with warships. 2,000 vessels from 3 empires hung in formation, representing the greatest military force ever assembled. Krethian battleships, Zelthari destroyers, and Vorn dreadnoughts spread across millions of kilometers. Their combined firepower could reduce a planet to dust. Admiral Kreshna stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Imperial Sword. Around her, every screen showed ship positions, weapon status, and tactical data. She had planned this battle for 3 weeks, coordinating with her counterparts from the other empires. They had numbers. They had firepower. They had experience. She tried to feel confident. She failed. Movement detected, the sensor officer announced. Quantum slipstream signatures. Multiple contacts emerging. The main display shifted. 7 points of light appeared, growing brighter. 7 human warships materialized from impossible to track faster than light travel. They formed a perfect formation, with the Retribution at the center. Against 2,000 ships, they looked insignificant. 7? Supreme Chancellor Vorntok said over the communication channel. His massive form filled his command screen. They brought only 7 ships. This will be easier than expected. Matriarch Zalara's voice added, perhaps they're here to negotiate. Perhaps they've realized they cannot win. Admiral Kreshina said nothing. She watched those 7 ships and remembered the recording of what one had done to 40. Mathematics told her 7 ships couldn't defeat 2,000. Experience told her not to underestimate humans. Her instincts told her to run. She ignored her instincts. She had her orders. The empires had decided to fight, and she would follow through. All ships, battle formation Delta. Prepare to engage on my mark. A transmission came from the Retribution. Captain Chen's face appeared on every screen in every ship across the entire fleet. She looked tired, Kreshna noticed. Tired and sad and determined. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Remnant Fleet. 200 years ago, on this exact location, you murdered 4 billion humans. Men, women, children. You bombed our cities. You destroyed our orbital stations. You showed no mercy. She paused. Today, we stand where our people died. We've come to reclaim what was ours. This is your last chance. Leave now or face the consequences. Vorntok's laugh boomed across the fleet communication. Captain Chen, you're brave. Foolish, but brave. You have 7 ships. We have 2,000. Surrender now and we'll allow you to retreat. Continue this madness and we'll destroy every human ship here. We were hoping you'd say that, Chen replied. Her sad expression hardened into something cold and deadly. All ships engage. Show them what humanity has become. The 7 human ships exploded into motion. They moved impossibly fast, impossibly coordinated. They didn't scatter or retreat. They accelerated directly into the center of the alien formation. All ships fire, Kreshna ordered. 2,000 warships opened fire simultaneously. The space between the fleets became a solid wall of energy, plasma and projectiles. Enough firepower to vaporize a small moon streaked toward the 7 human vessels. The humans didn't even try to dodge. They flew straight through the incoming fire. Their shields glowed brilliant blue, absorbing incredible amounts of energy. A few shots penetrated, but the human armor plating simply shrugged them off. Not one human ship slowed down. Then the humans returned fire. Kreshna had seen the recordings. She thought she was prepared. She was wrong. Seeing it in person, experiencing it directly, was something entirely different. The human weapons were nightmares made real. Singularity torpedoes created micro-black holes inside enemy ships, tearing them apart from within. Quantum disruptors phased through shields as if they didn't exist, melting hulls like ice under a blowtorch. Nanoswarm missiles exploded into millions of microscopic machines that swarmed over ships, disassembling them molecule by molecule. Plasma lances cut through multiple vessels in a single shot, and the humans moved like nothing Kreshna had ever seen. They anticipated every attack. They dodged fire that should have been impossible to dodge. They coordinated perfectly, each ship supporting the others, creating a web of destruction that no enemy could penetrate. Enemy casualties mounting, the tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. 100 ships destroyed. 200. 300. 300 ships in 5 minutes. Kreshna felt cold sweat on her skin. All ships concentrate fire on individual targets. Use overwhelming force on single vessels. The order went out. 50 ships focused their weapons on one human destroyer. Surely 50 ships could destroy one target. The human vessel's shields buckled under the assault. For a moment, Kreshna felt hope. Then the other 6 human ships adjusted their formation. They moved to support their damaged companion, their shields somehow linking together to share the load. The damaged ship retreated slightly and another took its place. The formation never broke. They fought as one. 400 ships lost. 500, how is this possible? Vorntok roared over the communication channel. There are only 7 ships. They're not fighting like 7 separate ships, a Zelthari tactical analyst observed. They're fighting like a single entity. Their coordination is perfect. Absolutely perfect. And their targeting systems, they never miss. Every shot destroys or cripples a target. Kreshna watched in growing horror as the death toll climbed. 600 ships. 700. Her own flagship shuddered as a human weapon shot passed close by, destroying 3 nearby vessels. She hadn't even seen the shot coming. All ships ramming attacks, Vorntok ordered, desperation clear in his voice. If we can't destroy them with weapons, we'll destroy them with mass. It was the order of a commander who had run out of options. 50 Vorn dreadnoughts accelerated toward the nearest human ship, planning to crash into it at full speed. Their thick armor might survive long enough to make impact. The humans adapted instantly. Their AI systems had clearly anticipated this tactic. They switched to different weapons, ones Kreshna hadn't seen before. Beams of energy that looked like concentrated starlight lanced out, cutting the ramming ships in half before they could get close. The disabled vessels tumbled past, lifeless hulks. 800 ships lost. 900. And then more quantum slipstream signatures appeared. 20 more human warships materialized from faster-than-light travel. Not 7 ships anymore, 27. They spread out surrounding the alien fleet and began a systematic massacre. Retreat, Matriarch Zalara screamed. All Zelthari ships retreat immediately. Born forces fall back, Vorntok added. His pride had finally broken. Kreshna wanted to give the same order, but her voice wouldn't work. She watched as her fleet, the combined might of 3 empires, the greatest armada ever assembled, broke apart in panic. Ships scattered in every direction, desperate to escape. The human vessels pursued briefly. Another 100 ships died. Then, as if by silent agreement, the humans stopped. They held their positions around New Horizon, letting the surviving alien ships flee. Casualties? Kreshna finally managed to ask. The tactical officer checked his displays. His face had gone pale. 1,200 ships destroyed. Another 300 damaged beyond repair. Total casualties. 1,500 ships out of 2,000. He looked up. Admiral, 75% of our fleet is gone. Human casualties? None. 0. They took damage, but every human ship is still operational. Silence fell across the bridge. Kreshna looked at the tactical display. The surviving 500 ships from 3 empires were scattered across space, fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. The 27 human ships held formation around New Horizon, guardians of a dead world. A transmission came from the Retribution. Captain Chen appeared on screen. She didn't look triumphant. She looked exhausted and sad. Admiral Kreshna, I know you're receiving this. Tell your governments what happened here. Tell them exactly what happened. 1,500 ships destroyed in 3 hours by 27 human vessels. And tell them this is just the beginning. We have 200 more ships. 200. If you want to continue this war, we'll fight it. And we'll win. But I'd prefer not to kill anyone else today. What do you want? Kreshna asked, her voice barely a whisper. What we've always wanted. Our territory back. The 47 sectors that once belonged to humanity. That's all. We're not interested in conquering your worlds. We're not interested in enslaving your people. We just want what was stolen from us. And we want to make sure no one can ever do to us what you did 200 years ago. You want us to just give up that much territory? Just surrender? I want you to accept the consequences of genocide, Admiral. You tried to erase humanity. You failed. Now you pay the price, not with your lives unless you force us to take them, but with the territory you stole from us. That's more mercy than you showed our ancestors. The transmission ended. Kreshna stood on her bridge, surrounded by shocked and terrified officers. Around her, alarms still blared. Damage reports still flooded in. Rescue operations were still ongoing for the survivors of 1,500 destroyed ships. She thought about the battle. 3 hours, 27 ships against 2,000, and humanity had won without losing a single vessel. It shouldn't be possible. It defied everything she knew about warfare. But it had happened. She had witnessed it. 3 weeks after the Battle of New Horizon, representatives from 3 empires arrived at Haven's Gate. The neutral station floated in unclaimed space, maintained by smaller species who wanted no part in galactic politics. It was the perfect location for negotiations, assuming negotiations were even possible. Admiral Kreshna walked through the station's corridors, her security team following at a respectful distance. She felt old. The battle had aged her, the horror of watching 1,500 ships destroyed in 3 hours. She had barely slept since then. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw human weapons tearing through her fleet. The conference room was large and circular, designed to give no species an advantage. Kreshna entered to find Supreme Chancellor Vorntok already there, along with Matriarch Zalara. The 3 of them had fought together at New Horizon. Now they would negotiate together, united by shared defeat. Any word on when the humans will arrive? Vorntok asked. He looked diminished somehow, less imposing than before. The battle had broken something in him too. Their representatives should be here within the hour, Kreshna replied. She took her seat at the table. Have your governments given you authority to negotiate? Yes, Zalara hissed softly. We have authority to accept nearly any terms. Our military analysts have reviewed the battle data. They all reached the same conclusion. If humanity brings their full fleet against any one of our empires, we cannot win. We probably cannot even survive. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. For millions of years, these 3 empires had dominated the galaxy. They had conquered smaller species, absorbed their territories, and enforced their will across countless star systems. Now, in the space of a few weeks, they had learned humility through bloodshed. The door opened. 2 humans entered. Admiral Kreshna recognized Captain Sarah Chen immediately. The human looked the same as in the recordings, calm and controlled, wearing her gray uniform. But there was a second human with her, older, with gray hair, and wearing a more elaborate uniform with different insignia. I am Admiral Jiang Wei. The older human introduced himself. Supreme Commander of the United Earth Remnant Fleet. This is Captain Chen, who I believe you've already met. He took a seat across from the 3 alien representatives. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. We didn't have much choice, Vorntok said bitterly. No, Jiang Wei agreed. You didn't, let's not pretend otherwise. You tried to exterminate us. You failed. Now we're here to discuss the future. He placed a data tablet on the table. These are our terms. I suggest you review them carefully. Kreshna picked up the tablet and began reading. Beside her, the other 2 representatives accessed the same document on their own devices. As she read, her heart sank deeper with each line. The terms were harsh. Humanity demanded recognition of sovereignty over 47 sectors, all former human colony space. They demanded massive reparations in resources and technology, to be paid over 50 years. They demanded full disclosure of all records related to the human genocide, including names of those who gave the orders. And they demanded that any surviving individuals who had ordered or participated in the genocide be turned over for trial. War crimes tribunals. Matriarch Zalara's voice dripped with venom. You want us to hand over our own people for trial? Yes, Captain Chen said. Her voice was cold. 200 years ago, your governments decided to commit genocide against an entire species. 16 billion people died. That was a war crime by any definition. Those responsible must answer for it. Most of the people who gave those orders are dead by now, Kreshna pointed out. Then we'll try their successors, Zhang Wei replied. The governments that ordered the genocide still exist. The empires that benefited from humanity's extinction still rule. Someone must be held accountable. That's non-negotiable. Vorntok slammed his massive fist on the table. And if we refuse? If we tell you to take your demands and leave? Zhang Wei's expression didn't change. Then we continue the war. We bring our full fleet of 200 warships and systematically take what we want by force. And instead of trying your war criminals, we'll simply kill anyone who stands in our way. Is that what you want? The threat hung in the air. Krishna believed him completely. She had seen what 27 human ships could do. She didn't want to imagine what 200 could accomplish. There's another term here, she said, reading further down the document. A 500-year non-aggression pact with verification protocols. What does that mean exactly? Captain Chen answered. It means our species will not attack each other for 500 years. And it means we'll have the right to inspect your military facilities to ensure you're not building weapons specifically designed to fight us. We're not going to let you spend the next few centuries developing technology to try genocide again. That's a violation of our sovereignty, Sailora protested. So was destroying our homeworld, Chen replied without emotion. You violated our sovereignty permanently when you triggered Earth's sun. Now you get to live with oversight. Consider yourselves fortunate we're not demanding complete disarmament. Krishna kept reading. The more she read, the more she realized these terms were actually more generous than they could have been. Humanity could have demanded total surrender. They could have demanded tribute or slaves or complete submission. Instead, they were asking for their territory back, compensation for losses and accountability for crimes. It was harsh, but it was fair. How do we know you'll stop at 47 sectors? Vorntok asked. What's to prevent you from demanding more once we agree to this? Zhang Wei met his gaze steadily. Because we're not like you. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want to build an empire. We just want to survive and make sure no one can hurt us again. The 47 sectors give us defensible borders and enough resources to sustain our population. That's all we need. Your population, Krishna said. How many of you survived? 300,000, Captain Chen said quietly. That's all that was left after your attack. 300,000 humans out of 16 billion. We've grown since then through cloning and accelerated breeding programs. But we're still only 3 million people. We're a dying species trying to rebuild. The last thing we want is a war of conquest. We just want a home. The number hit Krishna hard. 300,000 survivors. Her empire had almost succeeded in complete genocide. The fact that humanity had rebuilt at all from such small numbers was remarkable. That they had built a fleet capable of defeating 3 empires was beyond remarkable. It was miraculous. We need time to discuss this with our governments, Sailora said. You have 72 hours, Zhang Wei replied. After that, we assume the answer is no, and we proceed with military action. We've already moved occupation forces into the 47 sectors. If you agree to our terms, we'll administer those sectors peacefully and work with any of your citizens who choose to remain. If you don't agree, we'll expel everyone by force and secure the borders militarily. The meeting ended. The alien representatives returned to their ships to contact their governments. Krishna spent the next 3 days in constant communication with the Crethean High Council. There were arguments, heated debates, and even some calls for continued warfare. But in the end, reality won. The military commanders who had survived New Horizon all gave the same assessment. They could not defeat humanity in a conventional war. The 3 empires agreed to the terms. 10 years passed. The galaxy adjusted to its new reality. Humanity controlled 47 sectors along the galactic rim, a territory about 15% of the space the old empires had held. They rebuilt New Horizon first, turning the dead world into a living one again through advanced terraforming. Within 5 years, it became humanity's new capital, home to 2 million people and growing. Captain Sarah Chen, promoted to admiral, stood on the surface of New Horizon. She was older now, her hair showing gray. Around her, the city of New Hope spread in all directions. Gleaming towers and green parks, a monument to human resilience. Children played in the streets, the first generation born on New Horizon in 2 centuries. She walked to the central memorial, a massive wall with 16 billion names carved into it. Every human who had died in the genocide was listed here. It had taken years to compile the list, pulling data from old records and survivor memories. Chen found the section she always visited, the names of her parents and siblings who had died when Earth's sun exploded. "We did it," she said quietly, touching the carved names. "We came home. We survived." A young girl approached, maybe 7 years old, holding her mother's hand. She looked up at Chen's uniform and the medals on her chest. "Are you Admiral Chen?" the girl asked. "Yes, I am. My teacher says you saved humanity. Says you fought the bad aliens and won." Chen smiled, though it was bittersweet. "A lot of people saved humanity. Soldiers, scientists, engineers, farmers. Everyone did their part. I just flew the ship." The girl's mother smiled gratefully. "Thank you, Admiral, for giving my daughter a future. For giving all of us a future." They walked away, and Chen returned her attention to the memorial wall. Above, in orbit, the Retribution hung in space like a silent guardian. The great warship had been retired from active service but maintained as a museum and memorial.